Good day traders, welcome to the RMDTRADER Weekly Market Fix, where we will once again look at and discuss 5 popular markets to see what trading opportunities to keep an eye out for this week. Last week saw another big push in US dollar denominated currencies as a surge in dollar strength saw most currencies weaken against the US dollar. That being said, we will specifically take a look at the dollar index this week and see whether we might perhaps see a correction lying ahead. We will of course also have a look at cryptocurrencies to see what might be brewing and which opportunities might arise to help us position ourselves for some great trading setups. Kicking off this week, let's have a look at the dollar index chart. And what we have here is the chart for this year so far. And what we can see is a very clear bullish trend that we are seeing on the US dollar. And just considering the recent rallies that we've seen on all our US dollar pairs, what we have is the fact that we can see that recently the dollar index has made a new high, currently above the yearly R3. So at this stage, I am expecting at least a small correction towards the mean. In this scenario, it will likely be somewhere in the vicinity of 105 for the US dollar index. That's also previous structure support and also the weekly S1. So what that would likely mean is when we look at some of our US pairs for Forex, like for instance the AUDUSD, EURUSD, GBPUSD and all of those, we can expect the other currencies to gain perhaps a slight boost in terms of strength against the US dollar. Specifically looking in this scenario at the AUDUSD, we have a price finding some support also of this yearly S1. At this point, I think we might see a correction initially towards the daily 21 EMA at 0.690, and then also towards this area of our monthly pivot, which is currently yet untested at 0.701, and also the daily 50 SMA, which has previously acted as resistance. So in this case, we are expecting a bullish move on the AUDUSD with some support right at last week's lows at 0.677. Moving on, having a look at our indices. Looking at the NASDAQ, we have a price again trading above this slanted head and shoulders neckline, which is our overarching bigger pattern. It does appear that we might be seeing a slight interim double bottom with a price target in the vicinity of this week's R3 pivot, or perhaps even the yearly S1 pivot. That's at the level between 13.2 and about 13.5. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens this week, but I think we will likely see some strength on the NASDAQ. In other case, if we do see price break below this area of our weekly S1, which is at 11,500, I would expect continuation to the downside, and we can see that will also break the area of diagonal support. So that will then see the full slanted head and shoulders target somewhere in the vicinity of 10.5 to even as low as 10,000. Having a look at our commodities, let's have a look at the Brent crude oil. Brent crude oil has failed to hold this diagonal and also failed to hold above the yearly R2 last week. We have seen a break and then that retest of that neckline area and area of resistance in terms of the yearly R2. So for this week, we might see continuation back lower to perhaps test this daily 200 SMA, that's that red dotted line, and we might just meet it up somewhere in the area of our weekly S1 pivot, which is at 98.60. If we do fall below that level, we might even see a lower target somewhere between our weekly S2 at 90.50 and our yearly R2 at 93. Moving on to gold. Gold has broken below long-term diagonal support. And at this stage, we have entered into a previous area of support. And if we look back to about August, October last year, we can see price did find some support in this area. So we'll have to see what happens this week. Momentum and the interim trend is definitely still down. And at this stage, there is a possibility of a target area in terms of the bearish target at 1,680. That's the yearly S1, which would also act as major support. However, if we do find some support in this zone, I'd expect initially price to test the weekly pivot at 1,760, and perhaps we might even get a retest of that long-term diagonal at 1,820. Concluding with our cryptocurrencies and looking at Bitcoin. Bitcoin currently consolidating sideways. At this stage, it looks very similar to what we've seen over here. And I suspect it's possible that we might be seeing a slight or the formation of what could be a bearish flag. So if at any point we do break lower, and I'd say at this point the breakout level would be at 19,300. If we do break below this level, we will probably head lower again towards this area of major support at about 14,000. So be very mindful of that. In terms of perhaps one more move higher, similar to what we saw over here on the beginning of June, is we might still see a test of the monthly pivot and even that daily 50 SMA at 23,000 before we see price heading lower once again. That concludes our video for this week. Thank you for watching, and we wish you all of the best of your trading. And remember, trade smart and trade successful.